All right. Alexa, set an alarm for 30 minutes from now. Okay. Hey, everybody. My mom's couldn't be here today, but, and we might be getting a new book partner, but I'm still working out to make sure this young lady could be committed to the club and so forth. But my mom's in Germany, and my other mother has an obligation on Fridays. So I didn't come last Friday, but I just wanted to come today so that we could finish this book up in 2 weeks from now. Let me get my calendar so I can tell you when that will be. And then, so today is the 16th, so we'll finish up the common book on the 20th, and then we're going to go to this book. It's by Gabrielle Union, and we're going to need more wine. It has a bunch of little stories in here about her and her experiences, and I like her, so I think it'll be something good to, discuss. Let me set up this mic. All right. So next time it'll for sure be my mom, Gabrielle, but I think we might have another person too. And so because of that, our times might change, but I'll just make sure. If not, I'll still be doing it. So Let Love Have the Last Word by Common is the book that we're going to discuss, for 30 minutes. I only read, we're just reading half of this now, so it's part 1 and part 2. And then in 2 weeks from now, we'll do part 3 and part 4. So I picked Common just because I felt like he would be somebody that people get behind because he's a rapper, so if you like rap music, you would know him. And if you're in the movies, you would know him. And he does work in jails, working with people, so you might know him through that. He tries to share and spread love in the world, and I feel like he's a good person, to read about. I want to try to bring people here that could be inspiring to you or somebody that you love. So Let Love Have the Last Word. So it's a memoir, and I guess the definition of a memoir is an essay on a learned subject that's personal. So in here it's about how all his relationships and the things that he encounters, he's trying to do that, like in the name of love, and letting the last word be, let love have the last word, letting love have the last word, meaning like not just saying that you want to have a loving dialogue with someone, but making sure that dialogue allows other people to express themselves without you pushing your ideas on them, even when you have to let conversations breathe for a little bit. And it discusses this here a little bit with him and his daughter, because being pushy and just saying everything you want to say isn't really always being very loving, because you're not allowing somebody to say everything they need to say, in order to really come to closure with some conversations that you have. So the first part of the book, I'm just going to read this. Love runs through me and my entire life, and it permeates my art, and yet it's clear to me how little I have understood it. I love to read self-help titles, and I speak affirmation. But as I'm growing as a human being, I can see that other side of my life, and I don't just want affirmation, I seek to understand. So that's really what it's all about. It's like him traveling through his days, making comments about experiences that he's had and how he kind of like deals with stress and conflict and subject matter that are relevant to his daily life. So the first chapter is you kind of get to know him and what he's doing. He's like setting up for an interview and in the middle of a dress thing, and he's thinking and reflecting, and then it kind of tells a little bit about him, and then it goes into what part 1 is going to be about. And part 1 is going to be about how he loves his daughter, and he has a relationship with his daughter, but there's been a misunderstanding where somebody is feeling a certain way, and he wants to justify those feelings to her, but he also realizes he has to let her speak, and he has to let her feel validated in that conversation with her. So, and that's like he's allowing things to breathe, because it's not always about hurrying up and getting your point across. It's about validating other people's points also, and that is what love is. Love is just not you forcing your love on people. Love is allowing other people to be themselves and express to you without coming at you like in a fearful way, you know, like that you will reject them or say those feelings aren't validated. So I'm going to read like all the little quotes that he has because I really like them. So this is the first quote that starts the book. We can no longer afford to worship the God of hate or bow down before the altar of retaliation. As Arnold Toynbee says, love is the ultimate force that makes for the saving choice of life and good against the damning choice of death and evil. Therefore, the first hope in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word. And this is by Dr. Martin Luther King. So he's trying to really base his life around these ideas that he has, and he wants to fulfill them in his daily actions, because love is not just words and things that you express to people. Love is how you interact with people as well. So I'm going to read the next little quote for the next chapter. A man is worked upon by what he works on. He may carve out his circumstances, but his circumstances will carve him out as well. Frederick Douglass. So these are really mind-invoking quotes that I think also help you to dig deeper when you read these chapters about how you feel about some of these things. So it kind of like tells you like how he got his name. It used to be Common Sense. Some other group had that name, and then it was changed to Common. The next little thing says here, love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding places. And I think this is getting more kind of where the book is going to get on, and this is by Zora Neale Hurston. And that's because when you really love someone, you can't hide from, you have to be honest and open to them, and you have to allow them to be honest and open to you. And you have to stand in your truth, and you have to allow other people to stand in their truth. So that's why I really like this quote. And it kind of tells about his heroes, people that inspire him. Dr. Martin Luther King is one of his heroes, Muhammad Ali, and then Dr. Maya is another one. And I have like her poetry book. She's really invoking too. And her book, her biography is really interesting to read too if you want some other interesting reading material. It kind of tells a little bit about his name. Rashim is his name. And he has like a Christian name and a Muslim name. And I felt like there's a thing in the book that tells you like how he feels about that. And he's just saying, you know, that love can be intertwined in all these religions and things like that too, because the main thing that everything has in common is love. But you know, you can go on and on in his own little, you read it and then you can get, this is my interpretation of it. Go ahead and read it and get that, your own interpretation of it as well. Work is love made visible. Now I think this is really true because, and this is by it's by a prophet. So, because love is not just like things you say, love is things that you're willing to do and actions that you display daily in your life. So I really can relate to that. And here it says, all work is empty save when there is love. And when you work in love, you bind yourself to yourself and to one another and to God. And when I read this, and this is again by a prophet, when I read that, I was like, you know, work is work, but it's the love in the effort what binds you. You know, your work is your work, whether it's your work at work or wherever it is where you're at. And I read this thing the other day on Facebook, and I don't believe Facebook is like anything in there is very much true, but I do think like some of the quotes are interesting that people post. And one of the quotes was, I just lost my train of thought. You know when you're working in a good work environment, because when you go throughout the day, you'll hear a lot of laughter. And I thought that was really true, because people that are really happy at work, they will joke and conversate, and you will just hear like random laughter throughout the day. So that's just my own little thing that I saw the other day, and I just felt like there was a lot of truth behind that. So the first chapter, it's kind of pretty much in the middle of the night, he gets a call. Well, it's introducing you to him and what's going on, and then it introduces you into this story or this event that happened to him. And he got a call from his daughter in the middle of the night, and of course that's what any father would want, their child to call them, you know, whenever they need to. But the conversation didn't really go the way that maybe he would have intended for it to go, because she was a little intoxicated, and she just kind of let some things spill out and about how she felt. about some of the choices that he had made in life. And it kind of made him accountable to her feelings. Not that it was making him accountable, you know, not making him accountable to his own feelings, but he realized, you know, that he has this love affair with his daughter, and he thought it was always mutual, but maybe it wasn't always that mutual. That there is this love, but there's things that she wanted from him that maybe she didn't get because he was busy and he was traveling, and he, you know, his career took a lot out of him, and those things that the career took out of him are things that she would have wanted, which was time and attention. So he has to face that, because in his mind he always feels like he's a provider, he's doing great, he's given her everything that she's needed or wanted, but neglect. The thing is, at the end of the day, kids just want your time. Everything else is nice, but their desire is for you to give them their time. So he kind of has to face that, you know. And he has to have this dialogue with her, and he has to let her speak her mind, and he has to respect it. But then he has to figure out how he's going to respond and how he's going to fix that, you know, without, you know, disrespecting her open conversation that she is giving to him right then and there. All right, and then, so that's like the first chapter, but I'm going to read all these little quotes before we go to the second chapter. And there's so much more than that in the first chapter, but I'm not going to read the book for you. I just want to get you interested in the book. And this is another quote that I like by Dr. Angela Davis. Often music and art can express for us what we have not yet learned how to say in our everyday words. And I think in here it kind of says, you know, that's his escape, like his music, his freestyle, things like that. That's how he gets his peace. And then the second part of the book is going to be about the relationship that he has with his father. Now, his father and his mother weren't together very long, so he doesn't have a bunch of memories of his father as a child, but then they reconnected later on in life, and they do have a relationship. But part of them reconnecting later on in life is that his father has a condition that's not going to allow him an endless life. That life is going to end, and kind of just talks about how him and his father have a relationship, you know, as older adults, and how it's limited in time because his father doesn't have all this time, and you know, like those feelings that you have with the people that you care about, especially when you feel like the time is limited and you just really want to enjoy them, or when you feel like, you know, there's maybe a part in that relationship that you really missed, but you can't live your life in the past. You have to appreciate the time that you have with people when you have it with them. So it's, you know, him appreciating the time that he has with his father, even though it's at a different stage in his life, and also appreciating that time knowing that he only has so much time with his father. So I thought this was pretty good too. But you have to remember, like, it's a memoir book. So it's him kind of just talking about his daily life, or the things that he encounters, and how he reflects on that with his personal stand in the world, which is let love have the last word. So I don't know, like, I haven't read a lot of memoirs, but I would say it's kind of interesting if you like that person, or if you're interested in that person's life. But if you're like used to reading nonfiction or, you know, other types of stories, this will be a harder book. It's kind of like a book where you read it, you reflect it, you think about the quote, you think about what his, maybe, I hate to say this is his mission statement, but maybe that's what it is, that love have the last word, how it relates to each chapter, and then you can kind of build on it personally yourself as well. So if you're not willing to do that, I mean, it's not like a self-help book, but it is a reflective book. So if you're not a reflective person, you may not enjoy this book, but I certainly did enjoy it, and do enjoy it, and I haven't read the last part yet. But I just want to warn you, if you don't like Common, or you don't like people talking about their personal daily events, and then how that relates to their main mission statement or purpose in life, and maybe his main purpose in life is to show love, you may not be interested in it. Not saying that this is not a good book, because I definitely feel like it is, but not everybody's ready to read every book, you know, at a certain time in your life. So I'm just going to read the quotes. I kind of already broke down chapter 1 and chapter 2. It is something that you just kind of like really need to read for yourself and reflect on, and let yourself take some time with this book. It doesn't take long to read, but it does take longer if you read it and then reflect. If you read it and then reflect, that will take a little bit of time. So it isn't the mountain ahead to climb that wears you out. It's the petals in your shoes. And that's by Muhammad Ali. So, and I like that quote because I feel like it's kind of deals a little bit, like for me that quote deals a little bit like with forgiveness. Like it isn't that it's hard to move on in life. It's just hard in life to move on if you're not willing to forgive and forget people, what people have done or said, because everybody goes through cycles in life, and every little curve in that circle isn't your best curve. But it definitely doesn't mean just because you're going through a cycle and you're in a low spot that you can't rise up again and be at a high spot. And I hate when people try to hold people down for something that you did at your lowest part of your life, because a life is a lesson. You either learn from it or you don't. But a majority of the people do learn from their lessons, and we shouldn't hold people down just because they're going through a lesson. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. And that's by Ralph Emerson. And I like agree with that. Like not everything that we do in life that is right is something that brings you ultimate joy. But again, like you have to have a bigger purpose in your life. Like for me personally, my bigger purpose in my life is to live in peace and spread peace with people that I encounter daily. And that's my main objective. So I try not to do or say things that deteriorate my peace or other people's peace. And I have learned to hold my tongue a lot, but that's because every conversation isn't a good conversation. And that's part of, I think, growing up. You know, I want to maintain peace with people, so I will also do things or not do things to ensure that I have peaceful relationships with people. Because that is more important to me than anything else. So him and his dad's story, I think it's very interesting, and his dad is a very interesting person. The art of love is largely the art of persistence, Albert Ellis. So that is true. I mean, when you really love something, you'll be persistent, you know, about maintaining those relationships. And then it has some scriptures in here too. And I like this one. This is a good one. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 11. And just the part that he took out is, love is patience, love is kind. It does not envy and it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. And it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered and it keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It also protects. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. Love never fails. But where there are prophets, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. And I think that's just like life lessons. As you go through lessons, you learn to put things behind you. The greatest happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved. Loved for ourselves, or rather loved in spite of ourselves. Victor Yu. So I really like this because I feel like part of love is accepting people, not wanting to change them. Because you have to love people for who they are, because that's how you create real relationships, because the people in return will also love you for who you are. Because changing someone or having a desire to change someone is not love, it's control. Let's see, and then that's pretty much it. Like I read you all the little quotes that are at the beginning of the chapters, but I mean this is a deep book, and if you're a deep reader and you like to reflect on love, and he gives you some personal insights about his life, you know, not like names and not names of people, but a lot of it is like, you know, it's just the idea without him going in other people's businesses, which is what I really like about the book too. He's not like, I mean, I'm sure this book could be like about a lot of other people, and he could put other people's names in here and so forth, but that's not what he does. He just talks about his life and keeps other people's names, you know, out of it, When he refers to his daughter or his father, I mean, that's obvious, those are his people. He can name them by name, but in other aspects, he doesn't do that, which I really respect. So the interesting about Common, and go definitely pick up this book, definitely read it. We'll finish it up in 2 weeks on the 20th. My mom will be back, and I think we might have a special guest who might end up joining our group, but we'll see. You know, like, the interesting thing about Common to me that really made me really happy to read this book is that I recently got reunited with a friend that I've had for really the longest since I've been in America. And I'm not going to say her name, but she knows who she is. And when I read this, I think, isn't it interesting that that person knows this person? I don't know this person, and this person doesn't know me through that person, but it does give me insight into somebody that I already thought I kind of liked, you know. And I always feel like it's so interesting. Like, probably if I did meet him, I would really enjoy his company. I would really appreciate him as a human being, you know, and like to hear the things that he has to say. But I think there are affirmations that you are right about your assumptions, and my assumption is that Common is really good dude. Like, he's got it together, and he's somebody that you could send your kids out to grab his book and be really proud of what they read. So I also want to say, like, for me, when someone that I really respect or that I think about frequently in my mind, not that I see them every day or have conversations with them all the time, like this friend of mine, like, I really respect her. I have many thoughts of her. She's always on my mind. For her to say that he's a pretty awesome person, that lets me know, like, I picked the right person. And I got his other book too, so we'll definitely read his other book too. You know, it just makes you feel good about your decisions and lets you know that you are picking people that are respectable to read about, because I never want to read about somebody that I don't feel like could be an inspiration to you. So I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. And I think later on I might come back with Lexi and we'll do the nonviolence video. But if not, I'll come on by myself later on today too. But she's back and she's all settled in, so I think she'll be here. You guys, peace out. Have a wonderful day. You know, just appreciate the people that you have. Everything is limited. All right. Bye-bye.